Hey, this is Dag, and you're listening to Beyond Trek Podcast.
Red alert.
Welcome to another edition of Beyond Trek Podcast. I'm Big J, here along with my co-hosts Suzanne and Renzo. How are you guys doing today?
Good day for you.
Good. After this weekend, I'm hoping to have a good day. It was a long, stressful weekend. Anyway, we're going to talk about Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 9, Rubicon. Captain Burnham, the U.S.S. Discovery, raced to stop Book and Ruon Tarka from launching a rogue plan that could inadvertently endanger the galaxy. So without further ado, I think we should just jump right into it. Who would like to give us the play-by-play on this one?
I got it. So just first to start this off, let's discuss the name a little bit. So Rubicon is not just the name of a runabout on Deep Space Nine. It's actually the name of a river that was crossed in the invasion of the Roman Empire. And it was like the last line in the sand, right? That's essentially what this refers to. It's that last act before there's no going back. So,
that's some good history there. Man, you are a wealth of knowledge.
I try.
You've probably forgotten more things than I know.
I mean, it's just something I remember from history class at some point, right? Like it was famously crossed by Caesar when he was invading Rome to like install himself as the emperor, essentially. So, but yeah, it comes up in history a few times. But yeah, that's what this is in reference to. It's just like the last line, which becomes very relevant as this episode goes on.
All right, I like that. Let's get into this one.
So episode starts off on Bookship. They're inside of like the husk or like the shell of like a broken planet, like a piece of an asteroid or something. And they're just discussing building this isolytic bomb, and the isolinium is going to take some time. They're concerned that they didn't have enough for a second there, but a little goes a long way, Tarka says. And it's going to take him, 5 or 6 hours to calibrate the thing before he's ready to blow up the DMA.
Now, this weapon, when they were setting it up, they gave it the same care and devotion to that and determination that you would trying to flip an omelet. That was the first thing I thought of doing that, because that's where it's going to make you or break you. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a high success rate of flipping like that. Maybe I don't have the dexterity. I don't know. But am I the only one that, for some reason, pictured that? Just the carefulness and this is the important part of this whole thing. Sure. The flip.
I mean, they're handling something that can blow up subspace. So, he's careful. The thing that went through my mind, and this is because I'm young and watched cartoons, but the thing that went through my mind was the careful SpongeBob. You have to be incredibly careful with something like that. And so I feel like that's the sort of the quintessential moment of like, okay, it's in, cool. We're going to wait for 5 hours and see what happens type of thing.
Yeah, I definitely got that same vibe. Like they were being super cautious, which makes sense. Like you said, subspace bomb here. But what it reminded me of was, for some reason, and it's a little weird, is in Die Hard, one of the movies, the third one, Die Hard with a Vengeance, I believe, there's this scene where McLean is like measuring water in certain like jugs,
yes,
right? He's being super careful about pouring it so it hits the right amount in each of them, and he has to do like math to figure out how much goes in each jug. That's kind of what it reminded me of, where they're just super carefully pouring a little bit. Okay, all right, we're good. Kind of.
Yeah, see, he and the character played by Samuel L. Jackson, they had I think a 1 gallon jug and a 5 gallon jug, and they had to have a 4 gallon at the end of it. I might have a little bit wrong, but that's pretty much what it was. And so
it was definitely something like that.
Yeah,
I think there were 3 jugs though, but yeah, there was definitely
I think you're right.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I like that. But yeah, so that's basically the scene to me.
One more thing. Yeah, no, I wanted to mention that I think it's refreshing that even in the century that they're in, there's still sciencey things that happen. I mean, I feel like, a lot of the science that happens in Discovery or any Star Trek, you hit a button, and you scan this, or a bot does it for you, or, you put it in a little machine and it does it. I feel like it was refreshing to see them like use little tongs and like pour it very gently into the, it's nice to see little sciencey things still happening and that far in the future. I thought it was neat.
Yeah. Too often Star Trek is indistinguishable from magic sometimes, right? Like replicate the perfect amount and then you're good. You don't need to measure or do anything. Just pour it in. Nope. Here they were being very cautious with it. So it was good.
Well, wait a minute. Okay. So they're trying to be that cautious. Why didn't they use a funnel? He's got like this picture of this stuff, Book does, and he's trying to very carefully.
I wouldn't call it a picture. It's not very large. It's like the size of like a can of beer.
It kind of acts as a funnel in and of itself because that opening is so small. And so I feel like it's easier to pour it in there without, if you add another piece, it could wobble or, do that.
Because Lord knows what happens when I'm trying to put oil in my vehicle and
also
balance the
who
funnel.
Knows if isonium can be touched by other materials, right? Like whatever that little orb that it's made out of might be something very rare and special, so it can't touch anything else, right? Like there are acids you work on in a lab that have to be worked on inside of glass because if they touch metal, then they react, kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and I also think it was interesting that like at the beginning of the episode we get the Rubicon moment of like, okay, it's in there. This is happening. This is a thing that's going to happen. I thought that was neat. It's little, but I just thought it was cool that was very much in and of itself a sort of, we've done this. Cool. Got to do that now. Woo.
Yeah.
So our next scene is back on Discovery. Saru is entering Burnham's quarters. They're talking a little bit, and he tells Burnham that they've received a message from Booker that was encrypted so it couldn't be traced, but it is very much something that she needs to watch, right? And it was Booker saying that, they've received the information that it's a mining thing, but it doesn't matter. It's still killed millions or billions of people and it can kill more. So they need to put it out of they need to destroy it. It doesn't change his mind. So Saru says that Booker has left them no choice, right? He's going to do it. He is crossing the Rubicon, back to the name again, and they have to do something about it.
Well, and this just further highlights that both sides are correct in their own way. They're both going about a plan that they think is the right plan. Now, Booker and Ruon, they truly believe that the solution to this is to destroy the thing. And they could very well be correct. That's what you've got to do. And that's what they're going with. But everyone else, the Federation, believes in the first contact scenario. And they think that that's right and that's correct. They've got two different ways of solving this issue. And I like that we see each one kind of trying to beat the other to the end game goal. And they've each got their heels dug in. The Federation insists on first contact. Booker and Ruon want to destroy it. So, and I'm glad we have.
I don't want to both
conflict.
sides it though. I don't want to both sides it though, right? Because Ruon Tarka is the one who came up with this plan, right? But Ruon Tarka's motivations are not, we need to destroy it to save lives. No, he wants to destroy it so we can get the power source so we can go to this mirror universe or this alternate reality where the love of his life is, right? That's a different motivation than trying to save lives.
Well, but that's Booker's motivation.
Right.
He wants to save lives.
But Tarka is the one who came up with the plan.
Right. Because Booker wanted to destroy it, just didn't know how. Didn't have the means.
I think that when it comes to Booker specifically, I feel that Tarka saw the emotions that Booker felt and saw maybe not some of himself in him, but realized I can use this. And also knowing that he's got this ship, he's got, resources, he was a courier. I mean, to me, it seems pretty obvious that Tarka played on that. And I think that Book's motivations and Tarka's motivations are very different and disjointed, whereas the Federation has one goal. at this point. The Federation wants to make first contact and not piss them off any worse, because if this is mining equipment, what the hell do their weapons look like?
Right.
So the Federation is very, very together on this, I think.
The other thing to remember, though, is that Ruon Tarka and Booker, right? Ruon Tarka, I agree with you. I think he's just using Booker because of his connections and his ship and everything else. But Tarka also has Tarka's also taking advantage of the fact that Booker is definitely traumatized by this, right? Like, he is not thinking rationally. He may think he is thinking rationally, but he has suffered a lot of loss, a lot of trauma, right? It's only been a couple weeks, maybe a month or so since the destruction of Kuei-Jean. So he's not really himself right now, right? So I don't want to both sides this in the sense of both sides have equally valid opinions. Both sides think they're right. Every villain is the hero in his own story, right? So
Right.
I don't think that these are two equally valid plans. I think that if you think things through, Federation/Starfleet's plan is definitely the more likely one to succeed.
You're kind of going with the Thanos did nothing wrong position there. The villain
opposite,
thinks that he's right.
No, quite the opposite. I'm saying every villain thinks that they're doing the right thing. Every villain has their own justification. Ignore
Right, yeah.
it. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying that's kind of same thing that he had. He's a villain. He thought he was right. And so was his plan. So
Yeah, so did
let's
Booker
not
and Tarka.
right. So you're right. It's tough to two-side that. So yeah, just my thought on that one.
No worries. Okay, so our next scene is now where we crystallize a bit of the conflict for the episode. We are back on Federation HQ. Vance is saying that the remarks from Booker mean that they have to act now. Burnham is challenged by the whole concept of like leading this mission if she can be emotionally compromised. Vance agrees that she is compromised. Rillick has said her own views on the matter, right? Like, there's a lot against Burnham doing this mission, but Vance came up with a bit of a compromise. They want to have somebody else on the ship, a Federation security individual who will be there, who is a friendly face, but will be very objective about this. And that's when we get Commander Nan back, which was a very nice surprise. I didn't expect to see her again. And I really like Nan. So
I was trying to guess who that person was going to be. I wasn't anticipating that. I actually, for a moment, I thought it was going to be Tilly because
so did I, and I was afraid of that.
Right. Well, we knew sure as hell wasn't going to be Jet Reno. Just never around.
She's mentioned this episode, though.
Yeah, I know. Right. But whenever I hear Nan's name, I always think about naan bread and then start craving Indian food. Is that just me? Maybe I'm the only. Okay.
That's happened to me. It's happened in my brain a couple of times. I was like, because I mean, unless you look at it spelled out, you're like, ooh, wait, should. I've thought that. I've thought that before. Yeah, especially if like watching it late at night, I'm like, ooh, I want some Indian food. Is there anywhere open near me?
Yep,
Yeah.
right there with you. But yeah, no, I also thought it was going to be Tilly. I was afraid it was going to be, maybe the security lady that we met at the beginning of this, at the end of last season, the Federation security lady, whose name now escapes me. I thought it might be her. But
okay. Yeah, I think that would have been a bit obscure on that one, but yeah, I could see where that thought was coming from.
Love the idea of including Nan in this, and Burnham initially just goes super happy to see her, but then she tells Vance but we have a connection with Nan, right? Like, she's not totally objective, right? Like, that she came with us, and Vance explains that because she's a Barzan, they devote themselves to duty above all else, which is a good stereotype, a good characterization for a species, right? Like, they devote themselves to duty. Cool. So yeah, it doesn't matter that she knew Booker or that she is friends with Burnham. She's going to do what she needs to do to protect her, or to do her duty, really.
Yeah, and I think it's important also to remember that even though they have a connection, I mean, you would think it would be horribly painful if Nan were the one to make that decision. But at the same time, Nan never knew Book in the same way that Michael did. And if it does happen, there's somebody there objectively who hasn't really interacted with Book in a long time, as screwed up as it sounds, be there for her in a way and try, and it's better than a stranger. And I think it's mentioned a couple times, better me than somebody you don't know.
Right. And Saru
I think that's
was
important.
excluded too from this too, right? Like Burnham originally asked, like, but that's Saru's job. And then Vance counters with, yeah, and Saru is very close to book 2, so he can't do it. It has to be somebody outside. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it makes sense. I think it's a good call. From Vance's position, it makes perfect sense. If anything, I'm still surprised that they're letting Burnham do this at all.
Well, and I get what you're saying. I really do. But what were their options? Let her captain her ship or bench her and leave her on base.
And she wouldn't stay, I don't think. I mean, and I think that they probably know that.
She would have, she would have just escaped. She would have found a way off that base and ended up there anyway. So if I'm Vance, that's probably what's going to be in the back of my mind is this would just be less drama if she just goes, because otherwise she's going to blow a hole in the space sock somewhere and escape. So I'm not even dealing with that. Just go.
It's like,
don't
you
disagree.
go, but
With the supervisor.
No, I don't disagree. I think that is totally within Burnham's character to like do it anyways. She's got a real Kirk-esque vibe to that. She'll steal a ship and go try and catch Book herself.
Yep.
Got it. But I still think that, right, like from an admiral's perspective, it shouldn't be just Burnham, and it shouldn't be only Burnham in command of these things, right? So maybe it means that she doesn't get to captain the mission, but she's on the mission, right? Like that might have been enough of a compromise, right? Like Saru obviously compromised too. Put a new captain on Discovery, somebody that is well-versed or understands the technology of the spore drive, and have Saru and Burnham there as his like liaisons, his assistants for this mission, but just this mission. She's not losing her command. That kind of thing seemed pretty plausible to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we get a little bit of background as to what Nan was doing. She returned to Barzan 2, her homeworld, with the Tikov, which is where she'd been with the Siege ship. She got her breathers upgraded and her eyes are back to like her normal color now. So no more technological interfaces for her, or less intrusive ones at least. And she's been leading a covert task force that cleans up after the remains of the Emerald Chain. But she had to be secretive about it, so she couldn't really make a connection with her family. So it just kind of didn't work out on Barzan.
Just one quick little thing. I kind of wish they didn't do all of that. I liked her look when she had the breathers, and especially the eyes. If they're going to do anything, okay, upgrade the breathers, sure. But it's like they took away just about everything. Well, I mean, to me, there were like 3 things that distinguished her. It was the breathing apparatus, the eye color, and of course your standard, face bridges or whatever they are and such. I think they at least should have kept the eyes. It to me, it just didn't seem like her anymore.
I will say, well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna say there were a couple points where I didn't even think it was the same actress. I mean, I knew it was, but like I didn't really recognize her.
Yeah, I mean, the character does change and the prosthetics change. And I think that happens with, that happens with any show, I feel, just because new ways of doing things and whatnot. But I think that probably, and this happens with a lot of actors, I can't speak for her specifically. I don't know her experience with it, but for a lot of people, contacts are very, 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 very irritating. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact that, for example, Daniel Radcliffe in Harry Potter, they were going to give him contacts and he couldn't. I mean, he was young, but he just couldn't wear them. There are quite a few instances, especially in sci-fi, of actors saying, I can't wear these and act. I can't, I'm too distracted. It hurts. I can't do that. So the eyes kind of would make sense to me from that standpoint, if that were the case. The breathing apparatuses might have just been, again, one of those things that was uncomfortable, but it would also make sense for them, going into the 32nd century, to have different apparatus, different things that would help. So yeah, it does change the character a bit, and it does change the aesthetic of her a lot. And I see that, but I think that for me, at least, the contacts don't bother me, just because I know for a fact so many actors have worn them and said, yeah, it's absolute hell. I hate doing this.
Did you ever hear the story about Jim Carrey and the Grinch and his contacts and wear that character? They basically had to have, it was some kind of counselor or advisor or someone that was trained in torture techniques, something like that. Like, I might be saying that part wrong, but there was a person who was specialized in being able to help someone under that kind of pain and uncomfort get through it. Like he needed a person because it was that bad. Yeah. So I was just curious if you'd heard that one.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
And some actors like straight up are like, yeah, it hurts like shit, but I'll do it.
Sure.
You know, yeah. I totally respect that too.
It was like a psychological thing. It wasn't just that it physically hurt. Like, you know how that stuff messes with your head. Some of those, you know, so that was kind of the thing, was keeping that mental part down.
No, it makes sense to take out some of the annoyances from the character. And I agree with Suzanne, right? Like, by the 32nd century, technology is advanced. They no longer need the rebreathers as they would, right? It does make her look less alien, right? But I don't think Barzan were ever presented as being particularly alien other than the rebreathers, because in the original TNG appearance, they didn't have the eye thing at all, right?
Right, correct.
So here's the thing. She's from the 23rd century. So in the 23rd century, technology meant she had to use the rebreathers, but they figured out the eye thing. By the 32nd, they don't need either one, right? Yep. So I get it. I actually like the idea that it's advanced. A race shouldn't look exactly the same, for 1,000 years. There should be some changes in what they do, the accoutrements, right? Like, I'd be surprised if Bajoran earrings are identical now or in 32nd century as they would be in 24th. They should change.
I liked her eyes, though. I do miss that a little bit. I liked the eye color, but I mean, it's for me, as long as the actress is comfortable and in doing her job and isn't, because I'm autistic, so overstimulation is something I deal with all the time, constantly, and so again, I'm not like saying that she is. I don't know that, but I'm just saying that, like, for me, it's hard, and it's really, really hard. And for like some people, it's also incredibly difficult to do anything when you have basically plastic in your eyeballs.
Yeah. No, I just don't want another repeat. I just don't want another repeat of what happened to Virginia Hay in Farscape. She was the actress who played Zahn. The blue makeup that she had to wear every day for hours on end was literally causing her kidney damage, right?
Ooh,
like,
wow.
That's why her character was written off the show, not because she didn't want to be on it, but because it was killing her.
Oh,
right?
God.
So
I did not know that.
God.
Yeah, it's she had to. It was just leaving for health reasons, right? It was very unfortunate. She wanted to stick with the show, but couldn't. Yeah. If these contacts make it difficult or make it risky or dangerous for somebody, or any makeup or whatever, don't do it. Give us some. Come up with something else.
That was a thing. That was a thing that happened on TNG as well with Sir Patrick Stewart with the spandex and the uniforms and everything. And he said that his doctor, but his doctor eventually, he got a note from his doctor, and basically it would have been a lawsuit. And he's like, the costumes need to change, or I will stop doing this, because he just couldn't handle it anymore. And they got a new costume director and everything. But I mean, I'm all for changing things, even if it changes the character, which can be annoying, especially if you're used to them looking one way and they look different. But I am, especially with all of the stuff coming, about actors having the same voice and all that shit. Anyway, I'm rambling, but point being, I always want the people that are on the set to be comfortable and not in pain, or just for an aesthetic look. And I'm glad that we're getting better about that, to be honest. I'm glad that they update makeup for some of these things, right? Like the way that they did the Romulan makeup in Picard made more sense to me, right? Like some of them have the forehead ridges, some of them don't. They explained it. Northern versus Southern ethnicities. Got it. Cool. Updating things makes sense, right? Making changes for the purpose of verisimilitude. Love it. Make it internally consistent. Changing things just for the sake of changing things, I am less in love with. But yeah. All right. So our next scene I thought was a little weird. It was the scene with Saru in his quarters talking to Tarina, and then they start meditating. They do this hollow holding hands thing.
We're building romance. It's that slow burn.
Don't you get it.
You're not a romantic at heart.
They've never done this before. They're nervous.
It's just a little awkward.
It is. It's awkward because I feel like, and I think actually.
I mean, we don't know that Saru isn't still a virgin. It's hey. Tell me I'm wrong and I'll stop talking.
No,
I can't disagree.
It's funny. I don't disagree with you. I'm just imagining like
So
like Doug Jones listening to this, he's not. Saru's a virgin anyway.
So he's all nervous and everything.
Christ.
They both
No, he
could
is.
be.
Well, I think I was on-
She's had pawn flowers for sure.
Oh yeah,
for God's
You're
sake.
right. It's required when you're Vulcan. I forgot about stupid.
But no, I mean, I will say that I was on the Twitter space recently that they did for Discovery, and Doug Jones, I think, mentioned that, this is not something that either of them are very versed in. And so, to me, it almost seems just like he's like, hi, do you want to hang out? Maybe, they're teenagers. It's in a way for me relatable because I'm young. I hadn't figured that shit out yet either.
It reminded me a lot of that funny scene in Avatar: The Last Airbender where Sokka's trying to be like, would you like to do an activity with Yue? I was like,
yes,
this is equal levels of awkward.
Oh boy. Or anytime Aang interacts with Katara ever in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like,
just,
oh dude.
It's very teenagey to me, and it's just seems a little
he's
strange.
11, but he's an 11-year-old. But
I think it's sweet that these two are playing off like they're teenagers. It's nice. Adds a little levity to the fact that everyone's going to die.
Yeah.
So.
And I will say, and I think I've mentioned it before in the same context, but I really enjoy getting to see older actors in romances. I feel like it doesn't happen very often because, there's this whole idea of like a quote unquote shelf life, or, certain young actors are usually gonna be in relationships. And so it's refreshing to see, Michael and Book, and also Gray and Adira, and also an older couple that's still learning things, that's still, learning how to date. And this idea that like romance doesn't die when you turn 30. That doesn't happen.
It doesn't have to die.
I really
can
like
confirm. All right, but like I do like the scene. I just think that it's such a strange thing to present to adults, to more senior people, right? People who have life experiences, acting so coy about what is clearly attraction. It just seems odd. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, but it just seems strange that one of them can't just say, "You want a bone?" at some point to the other.
She's Vulcan? Navarin? Is this still Vulcan? I don't know.
Yeah, they're still.
Navarin has been said a few times, but you've also heard Vulcan still.
But not only that, he's a diplomat for Kaminar, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's also Starfleet. She's only just joined back into the Federation. So there's gonna be some tension there of just like, okay, how do we go about this? What's the deal? It's not just coworkers, it's, and not only but she's Vulcan. And so he's probably like, I don't know what to do,
So what about the power dynamic there though, right? Like there's a question there about like the impropriety of it too, because she's the president of a Federation member. She is very influential and powerful. And Saru is just a captain. Maybe there's an impropriety there that he's feeling. I can see an interesting argument being made about it.
Don't get me wrong. I do agree with you that it is a bit much. It's a little strange.
They might not have anything in the books on this. Who knows?
I'm not saying on the books. I'm saying from the perspective of like a viewer in 2022 or whatever, right?
Like don't date your manager.
It's not that. It's more so your manager shouldn't try hitting on people under his command or under his authority, because there's a power dynamic thing there, right? It's actually sexual harassment in many cases. So
what did Q say in Hide and Q when Picard was talking to Tasha fraternizing with lower ranked females or something like that? You just made me think of that scene, TNG season 1.
Yeah.
Okay,
but I will admit that I really like them. I hope that gets explored. I think they're sweet.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So cut to our next scene, and we've got Saru heading to the bridge, talking to Commander Nilsson. That Booker hasn't given them a choice. Reese and Bryce are kind of like talking about how many people there were who believed that he and Tarka were right. And then, Saru shuts it down authoritatively, being like, listen, ours is not to question why, ours is but to do and die. It's very matter of fact, right? Like, this is the mission. We're going to do it. Your personal feelings here, not the time and place, guys, which I think is the right thing to do.
Saru's got that great project manager vibe. If you start having too much fun or getting off task, he's going, hey, listen, let's get back to it. You might have your opinions, but we have our project plan. Our orders, and that's what they have to do, which I think is great between Burnham in Saru. Like she's kind of more of the relaxed,
good cop, bad cop.
not not high strung all the time, and he's good cop, strict cop.
Mom and dad.
Yeah, mom. Right. Oh God. Yeah, mom and dad.
Yeah, no, it works. And they're both captains, which I think is interesting too, just as a dynamic.
Oh,
it's really cool, yeah, for sure. Especially that he's like still on Discovery in some. I like that they brought him back. I like the way that they did that. Also, I wanted to mention it reminded me of a scene. Not exactly the same, but there's a scene in Voyager in the Omega episode where Harry Kim keeps talking about all these theories, like this is what I think it is, and this is what I think this is, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. Tuvok just goes, no, I don't care. Like, I don't want to talk about this. We're doing what we're supposed to be. We're doing what we're doing. Like, you're not. I don't care, basically. And I just, in Vulcan terms, he's basically just like, I'm not interested in. I think Harry Kim says, like, you want to know what I think, and he's just no. But
Harry got shut down like Worf used to.
Yes, he did. And but it's
Well, we never got a shut up Harry kind of moment, but whatever.
True.
Well, yeah, anyway. it's not exactly the same, but I like the authoritative tone that he takes.
This is a ship on a mission, right? They have to have some discipline for these things, right?
Harry, rub your ensign pimp, and remember where your place is. I knew I was going to say pimp. I was trying to practice it. Pip. Rank pip.
All right, so the scene continues on with Burnham and Non arriving on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And Non is just like, I'm just here as an observer, just watching how y'all do. And then Burnham goes, no, they should know the truth. They should know the truth that Vance wanted somebody here in case my objectivity was compromised. And I think that that's the right thing. So this is not an easy mission. It's critical we succeed. So she's here for that. And everybody seems to accept it. There's no friction, as there should not be friction, because they all know her. And, they were friendly. She was their security chief for a while.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, very much, no games. It's, this is one of the biggest missions we're going to have. There are no games right now. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I respect that.
So then they tell Wishikin to target where the tracker has determined that book is. And they're going to use the spore drive, and they cloak, which was nice before going. Yes. It was a good thing to remember that they gave the ship a cloak, because, that's something that you could easily just kind of forget that you did for one episode.
I'm glad they're not overusing it. That's nice.
I mean, they haven't had to, right? They haven't had anything that was really particularly covert at all.
It's about time they get cloaking. I know we talked about this before, but that it was time that Starfleet finally, or I guess the Federation was finally able to utilize cloaking technology, because didn't we come up with, once Romulus was destroyed, government collapsed, et cetera, that treaty no longer applied, and they took advantage of that, the Treaty of Alderaan?
It depends, right? So there are many treaties that were signed between the United States and the Soviet Union, many treaties that are still followed through by Russia, like the IRBM, the International, or the Ballistic Missile Treaties, et cetera, all those. Mm-hmm. Those weren't signed by Russia originally. They were signed by the Soviet Union. And because Russia is a successor state to the Soviet Union, they just kind of kept going with it, right? Maybe there was a successor state to the Romulan Star Empire, something, the Romulan Republic, who knows, before they merged back in with Vulcan. That was a successor state for a couple hundred years. Remember, a couple hundred years is nothing for a Vulcan or a Romulan life. Correct. So I don't know. It's possible that they kept going without cloaking devices for, until the 29th or 30th century, for all we know.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. So anyways, they give this jump, half-hearted let's fly that Burnham gives. It looked really pained. Sonequa Martin Green does a really good job of looking very conflicted by that order. So good job to her, as always.
She's a great actress.
Mm-hmm.
She's incredible. I absolutely love every single scene that she's in. She's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. Absolute queen.
So they arrive. Next scene is they arrive at the rogue planet. Book Ships is inside of a little crater or a hole inside of the asteroid. They scan. There's no scanners or defenses. There's no mines. There's no explosives. No booby traps anywhere. So Detmer brings them in really close, and they go to their ready room with Nan to discuss their plan, and Dr. Culber goes along as well. So the plan is they're going to send one of these new shuttles, which I really like how they look, by the way, a cloaked one that's going to attach itself to the maintenance hatch on Book ship, and they're just going to like sneak in there, taking weapons, but hopefully not going to shoot them, right? Solid enough plan. They're not expecting guests. They don't have a defense against this as far as they know, and it makes sense. There was one interesting scene here, though, where when they're discussing who's going to be going on the mission, Nan questions why Lieutenant Commander Bryce would be going, because he's supposed to be doing work with Kovich for the first contact thing. And Burnham is on like, no, I already thought of that. I'm going to have Zora do the work, so it'll be fine. You don't need Bryce. It shows that Burnham thinks with preemption in mind, right? Like she's like, what are objections that could come up? Let me plan that out already. So I like that.
Very good.
Agreed.
Yeah. They're also going to use a couple bits of technology, like technobabble, to like disable parts of the ship's systems and defenses when they get on board, which is something that I like that they actually mentioned, because something that hasn't come up in Star Trek but has on other sci-fi franchises like Andromeda, if you're boarding a ship and the ship is intact and has its computers, they can turn up the gravity wherever you are, right? Like, oh, the room that we just took over is now at 6 Gs. Good luck getting off the fucking ground, right?
Why has that never been shown in... Wow, you just blew my mind there.
Yeah, they showed it once. They showed it once in an episode of Andromeda where the computer and Rami, the ship, she's like, you boarded my ship. You're now at twice gravity. I can dial it up to 12. You're going to leave, right?
Right.
And they do, because they don't want to be smushed into jam by the artificial gravity. So... Right. It's a little on the nose for Star Trek to do it now, because this whole season and season 3 are basically copies of Andromeda. But yeah, it's
too late.
I know. But it's interesting. Now. It's interesting that they even mentioned that they're going to disable ship systems automatically when they board it. So cool. Yeah. They mentioned, or they also specifically say that they're going to bring Dr. Culber along to just try and de-escalate things, which is good, because Culber built a relationship up with Book, and Culber is now their like de facto counselor,
therapist, doctor.
Yeah, he's got a lot of hats on now.
I want him to take a very long vacation after this. I want him to take a very long, thoughtful, like straight up reserve the holodeck for a week, bro. Just go in there for a week. And like hot spring, something, chill out, just breathe. I need him to take care of himself after this is over. I understand why he needs to do what he's doing, and I appreciate that. But after the stress cleaning thing that happened in the last episode, like, dude, please go take a like long hot bath, just like live your life for a minute. Oh, agreed. I feel so bad for him.
But yeah, the only thing that they mentioned as a possible problem would be that Tark is a wild card. Like, he may not listen to reason. He may start shooting. So phasers on stun. And yeah, they seem pretty prepared with this plan.
To me, it sounds, it seems like, if anything, a well thought of plan.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I feel like with a lot of Star Trek, I mean, a lot of stuff that they do is not quite as severe as, if we fail, they will blow this thing up and we might all perish. So I think it's a very sort of end of the world scenario. And I feel like a lot of the plans are sort of like, I'm going in, we'll figure it out when we figure it out. But this one's like, no, we have to figure it out. Like, we have to know what Tarka could do, because Tarka is a scientist and he's incredibly brilliant. And so it's not just Book that they're trying to cross. It's Tarka, and he is dangerous. He's volatile, as he's proven. And so I think it's important that they get all of their ducks in a row, so to speak, before they do anything.
And they don't know him, they don't know him well enough really at all to predict the kind of things he could do.
With every scenario. I mean, every single possible thing that he could do, that, he can manipulate the ship. I mean, obviously, Spore Drive, crazy. He's made this huge weapon that he could, what other things is he capable of making or doing that would stop us? So yeah, I think it's important that they get everything in line in a row. And I think probably Nan had a lot to do with it, just because, security.
I don't think so. I think
maybe not.
I don't think so. I think this plan was probably cooked up before Nott even got on board.
Yeah, true. Okay, that's probably true.
Which is why when she mentions the whole like, well, you can't have Bryce needs to work with Kovich, Burnham's like, actually, I've already thought of that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, either way, I think it's a really well thought out plan. It reminds me a lot of how Prodigy ended its season 2 with like the kids thinking up their super planned out thing with many contingencies. Cool. Seems like a good idea. And then they launch the shuttle and we go back to the whole arguing about motivations. Bryce and Reese are talking about it again, and again, Saru shuts it down, which is good. Or rather, not Saru, Culber shuts it down. He's like, regardless of their feelings, like we need to focus on the mission. Saru is this time letting Culber calm them down about it because it makes sense. Culber does this whole conciliatory. They all have different opinions about things, but this is the job. So
yeah, we have to do this. This is not one of those things where we can like, whatever, fine. You can argue amongst yourself, but whatever. It's not one of those things. We are doing this. We have to do this. If we don't, bad things will happen. Please shut up.
Yeah, and it's not like that bad manager kind of thing where it's like, don't talk while you're on the job, don't ask questions. No, it's more of the time for questions has passed. The time for acting is now, and we should focus on the task, right? Which is much more reasonable than shut up and stay quiet.
Well, it's kind of like when you see someone just randomly running. You don't ask, why are we running? Just keep up. Ask questions later.
Jay, I see joggers all the time around my apartment complex. I'm never just trying to catch them.
No, I'm not talking about joggers. I'm talking about someone that's running that looks like there's a purpose.
Like if there is something that, like if you hear a noise and then you see somebody going, like the other way, you might want to go the other way and then figure it out later. So it's just, if there's a fire.
Why are we running?
If you hear just like and then someone's screaming and running past you, it's like, I'll follow that one.
I'm in the DC area. If I see a bright flash, I'm just putting my head between my legs. Like there's no point.
Like an ostrich with a head in the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's DC. If anything's going to happen, I'm over. I'm outside of city limits, but it's done. Anyways.
Did you ever watch those nuclear flash documentaries? All the kids like huddling under that's what me.
Blankets.
Like,
nuclear blankets.
It's been cool. It's been something.
All right. So the shuttle gets really close and they extend like a docking arm, or docking like a little tube thing. The soft dock is what they called it. One thing I did think was really cool about the scene, just tech wise, is on Discovery, they're able to filter out the shuttle's cloaking device so they can see the shuttle just fine. Even before it makes contact with the Booker ship, the Nautilus or whatever. So that was neat. I like that. It's a little bit of an advancement because in the past when we've seen like cloaking ships can't see other cloak ships, even if they're allies.
Right.
So yeah, I like that.
Now, this is the part that kind of makes me dizzy thinking about it. When the shuttle docks, like it perpendicular, the shuttle's perpendicular to Book's ship. So if I'm on the shuttle, to me, it would be like I'm walking straight, but I'm facing the floor of his ship. And that little, whatever that break is in that gravity, okay, what was their plan there? They're not wearing gravity boots.
They don't need to. There's gravity inside the ship. You just change your orientation.
I don't know.
There's a hatch that they're attaching to, remember? Well, maybe if you don't know what you're doing, but like they've trained for this. They had their zero-G trainings and such, right? Like, no, you should remember that episode. I think it's the first episode of Enterprise where Trip finds the room that has the sweet spot and Mayweather is just sitting on the roof of it and he like floats off, right? Like that's basically the same thing, except I don't think that there's going to be a transition where there's zero gravity. It's just going to be like gravity pulls you this way, then you hit the hatch and then gravity pulls you that way. Yeah. So you just grab the ladder and you keep going down the steps.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but there is something about scenes like that in Discovery and other treks, but especially with Discovery, with all of the visual effects and everything that are very, very dizzying, to say the least. It's like,
if you want dizzying, watch The Expanse. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really good. But there are some scenes in there where they're like doing battle maneuvers and things are rotating, and it's like, ooh, seasickness.
I think I tried to do The Expanse. I couldn't get into it.
Give it a shot. Give it more than a couple episodes. It's really good. But back to Star Trek, because this is not the Beyond the Expanse podcast. Anyways, so here's when something starts to go wrong. There's programmable matter that's like crawling up the tube and onto the hull of the shuttle, and it's like starting to squish it. And the shuttle looks like it's starting to shake and buckle. The cloaking device goes out, and on Bookship, Booker is surprised to hear an alarm. And he's like, "What the hell is that?" And Tarka goes, "Oh, it's an intrusion detection thing I installed on the way to Parathia." Booker is just fucking pissed that Tarka didn't tell him about changes to his ship, which makes sense. Booker does not like people messing with his ship at all.
I wouldn't either. The guy should have. Well, of course, he wasn't going to say anything. So, I mean, and that just shows you how underhanded Tarka is. You don't know what he's doing or when, because he does it when you're not looking, just kind of does whatever.
He's got this ego, right? Like, I'm smarter than you, so I'm just going to do things without telling you because I'm doing it for your own good, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and there are moments where, all of this stuff happens and he goes, "Oh yeah, I did this, whatever." And you kind of see Book falter a little bit and go, "Hey, what the fuck, dude? What the hell, man? You're supposed to be on this together. Thank you." And like, it's very clear that he's maybe not faltering in his goal, but in who he's working with and what he wants. I think that's sort of an unspoken thing that happens. And I think that Book and Tarka, I think that oh God, remind me of Tarka's actor's name. Oh goodness, I can't think of it. Is it Sean?
I have to look that one up for you.
But David and Tarka work really, really well together, and they what am I trying to say? They bounce off of each other really well, and they have these really, really unspoken moments of mistrust or discomfort and things like that I think they do an incredible job of. I think I really, really, really love those two characters together.
Yeah, no, they play off each other super well. Yeah. Booker then recognizes it's one of Discovery's shuttles and immediately goes, Burnham put a tracker on the Isolinium. They found us that way. Then back on Discovery, they're just realizing that the shuttle is now being crushed. Did Burnham know that Booker's ship could do that? And she is very surprised. They try and beam people off of it, but Oloshikin can't get a lock because of the disruption field. Burnham orders her to abort, so they start trying to pull the shuttle away, but they can't. Booker starts to panic, demanding that Tarka turn off this defense system. And Tarka goes, "No, they'd be dead before I even got to the first layer of programming," right? Like, bro, if you turned on a security system that you can't turn off, it's not a security system, it's a prison.
The actor's name is Sean Doyle.
I was right, it is Sean.
And actually, speaking of The Expanse, he was in The Expanse.
Yep.
He was,
in that
yes.
show. House of Cards. That's where I've seen that guy. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I knew
okay.
this whole time. I knew, where do I know this guy?
I do that with so many actors in Trek. I'm like, how do I know this? Where have I seen them before? It's just, it always clicks. Like I didn't watch Voyager until I had already watched iCarly as a kid. And then I was like, why do I recognize this Principal Franklin? Like I remember specifically going, I know this man. But yeah, no, I do that all the time. But yeah, so Sean and David, and they both play off each other very well. And I think they work together incredibly well, and I love their dynamic in this series, and I hate Tarka so much. and Sean does an incredible job of making a really good character that you hate. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But yeah, so at that point, Tarka makes a suggestion which surprised me. He actually goes, push an EMP through the shuttles or through the hull, right? Like that might slow down the programmable matter long enough for them to get away. It doesn't work, but it shows that he at least didn't want the people on the shuttle to die.
Right. Yeah. And I get where his thought process is that he's trying to cover every contingency of their plan, but it doesn't mean that he just wants to kill indiscriminately. Not like that. So yeah, I think that's that's a good balance there. He's not like a villain. He's not just trying to kill for the sake of killing. He at least tried to figure out a way to get these people out of harm's way.
Or he realized that if he killed them, Booker would never work with him, would never trust him.
I was going to say, yeah. So there's that. But also, I mean, I think that maybe sometimes his emotions, because Ruon Tarka, whether or not he shows it, has an emotional, to our knowledge, has an emotional motive. And so it may not be the same as Booker's, and it may be an arrogant type of emotion. It's an arrogant sort of egotistical motive, but I think that he doesn't necessarily always think he's doing things because look at what I can do. Like, I mean, I'm impressive in what, I'll put in this thing that no one can hack. And then in doing that, kind of overshoots his own ability and goes, oh, well, I can't turn it off. And then realizes he's going to piss Book off if people die. So he figures it out, sort of, or tries. And So I think Tarka is arrogant. I think he's kind of a bastard. I don't think that he's out there to kill people, but I don't think he really thinks about it a lot. I don't think he really cares. I think at that point they probably, if Book had not been with him, probably just collateral.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think he's he would think of himself as like a big picture kind of guy, right? These are just, these are rounding errors, right? With regards to saving lives from the DMA. If 15 people have to die for me to blow up the DMA, then you know what? Worth the cost. It's monstrous, but that's probably how he'd approach it. Yeah. Anyways, the EMP does slow it down just long enough. The shuttle's thrusters can't pull it away, but Awoshikun does manage to beam everybody back right to the bridge, and everybody's fine.
And did you notice that the way they came onto the bridge, they had just lost that whole integrity? They were being sucked out, like right at that moment. You catch that? Mm-hmm. When they beam on the bridge, they were in motion, already falling. So, yeah, they
very
were
last
getting pulled out of the shuttle.
Also, can I mention going back to earlier in the season when that one red shirt guy was also pulled out of the ship and they didn't get him back into the ship, and we figured out why, and I know we've talked about it, but I just still think it's funny that we can get the captain back, but fuck that guy.
Well, they learned how to do it after that guy.
That's true, yeah. And they were in the void, and it was weird, and they didn't have tracking. I get it, but I just think it's like, damn. We
should have a plan in case someone gets sucked into space again. Yeah, we should have a plan.
Yeah. Oh shit, we got to use that this time. Cool.
Well, remember, here's the thing, though, right? Like they were essentially standing still for a while there, right? Like the shuttle was in one place and you're just trying to lock onto things. Once you're blown out an airlock or out of like a hole in the hull, you're a moving object, and you may not be enough time to get you before you die. I don't know. It might be hard to lock onto somebody moving fast. IDK, doesn't really matter. Okay, so cut back to Discovery's bridge with all the people rescued from the shuttle. Booker checks in and goes, everybody okay? Cool. Which was an interesting scene. But by that point, he's disabled the tracker and their ship is gone. So Non goes that he believes they're going for the DMA. And then Burnham says, then so are we. And off they jump to go find the DMA.
Yep.
I can't wait till we get to the cat and mouse game and the... Well, I won't say anything else. I don't want to spoil it.
We'll be there in a minute.
Hurry, please.
Anyway, so they arrive at the DMA after a quick spore jump. Linus is actually on the bridge, which was nice, and he reports that the dark matter from the DMA is actually interfering with their shields. Their shield stability and scanning range is all kinds of flummoxed. So it's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack, according to Detmer. But Saru points out, but if we're having trouble, so is Booker, which is a very good point. It's the same kind of logic that was in the Mutara Nebula in Star Trek 2, where if it's going to affect us, it's going to affect them, and it might even the odds, right?
Sauce with the goose, Renzo. The odds will be even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they start scanning around for the rift controller. They start scanning around for the rift around the controller because that might be easier to find than the device itself. And then Non grabs Burnham and Saru and they go over to the ready room and they discuss a rather serious thing.
that the book ship basically has a Death Star type weakness to it, a one-shot kill kind of thing to be used in an emergency, which I'm curious, how did they, well, I was about to ask, how do they find that? How do they know that? There could have been a dozen ways if they could have come across that.
I think it's actually because of the spore drive, right? Like she says, like because of the prototype spore drive, there's a vulnerability. Mm-hmm. So maybe the prototype spore drive like emits something and it's flammable to a certain kind of photon torpedo. Because they mentioned specifically photon torpedo, not quantum, which we hear of everywhere else in the episode. So I don't know, it's a little notable, but it's an interesting thing that they had this, they found this vulnerability and they ordered Non to use it if Booker couldn't be talked out of it.
Right. In extreme circumstances to use that.
Yeah, and Burnham specifically goes, it's not just about Booker, it's about getting the spore drive back too. That's how we break our dependency on dilithium, which is a very important point because obviously Tarka is not going to be much help in making another spore drive because he's fucking bastard. So they need to get that prototype back so that they can make more for the rest of the fleet.
Yes.
Makes sense to me. And obviously it's a better spore drive than the one in Discovery because it doesn't require a person to do it or a tardigrade to do it.
True. And they, as long as the Discovery is the only ship that can do it, they're kind of consistently at a state of somewhat peril. Like they don't really send Discovery out unless it's that important, you know, because if you've got the one thing that you can't duplicate yet, you kind of just want to keep it, like keep it in the base. We don't want it to leave. Don't want anything to happen to it, which I totally understand until you can get a replacement that is a repeatable process, something you can replicate. You can do it more, just like you said, be able to outfit their whole fleet, maybe even all Federation memberships. So yeah, definitely maybe important not to lose his ship because he's got that spore drive.
But we see that there's a point of conflict here, right? Where Non is like, we should just blow him up, and Burnham's like, we should find a better way. And Non reminds Burnham that like she has the authority to relieve her of her command, and Burnham's like, I'm not going to relinquish my command, and while I'm still trying to come up with a solution here,
I will cut a bitch.
Yeah, it looked rather tense for a second. And then Saru goes, actually, why don't we look at the things we agree on before we disagree on things? Reminding him or saying that he heard that from Culber, which was smart. And it gives Burnham an idea, a really smart one, which I hadn't thought of at all, right? So we know the DMA is mining boronite. And then she comes up with this idea that if they can see how much boronite is left in the area and at what rate it's getting reduced, they can estimate how long the DMA is going to be here before it jumps again. Smart. Makes perfect sense. Very logical. She says this to Stamets in engineering, and he goes, I can't do that. I'm already trying to expand the sensor range. And she goes, put Reno on it. It's our only mention of Jet Reno in the entire episode. And tells him that they
third mention this season or something like that.
We saw her in one episode. Yeah, I love Tara. But yeah, so they want to figure out how long it would take, and they put Zora on it, or to work with Zora, and they need a timetable so that they can try and convince Booker to stand down if they know how long it'll be before the thing moves again, right? Like if it's going to be a month from now, then that gives them a month to try and think of alternatives or to do their first contact before they try blowing it up. Makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And then Non suggests that they take this to Admiral Vance, and Burnham goes, yes, we'll do it together.
Now she's playing ball. And I like how Saru is so good at de-escalating a situation. He always seems to be that no bullshit, calm, cool, and collected. Everyone calm down.
Yeah,
get our thoughts back together. Good mediator.
Seems to be the mediator quite often, and he's good at it. And I always enjoy when he's able to go, okay, cool, but we could do this instead, and he's just calm and chill. And I love when Saru gets to sort of mediate, because he usually has better solutions, and he has to do it all the time on Kaminar now, and it makes sense that he would be really, really, really good at it.
And it might be something racial too, right? Like something in the race of Kelpians, right? Like they were a prey species for so long, especially in his generation. He came up before the Ba'ul were converted to being peaceful, I guess. So maybe he's more used to having to be a conciliator or having to mediate between conflicts to try and like keep as many Kelpians alive. I don't know. Maybe it's just something he was raised to do. Or maybe he grew up with a bunch of brothers and sisters. We know he has at least one sister. So if you have a whole lot of siblings, somebody needs to learn how to be the mediator.
Good. Yeah. I never thought of it that way. That's a good point.
All right, so back on Bookship, they're still searching for the controller. The interface is messing with their cloak. He's still pissed at Tarka about the shuttle. Tarka tells him that he's been trying to figure out a way to do this for 10 years to find a way to get to his love interest that we know very little about. Booker tells him straight up, don't go behind my back again and go finish the weapon. Tarka goes, it's already done. I told you that 5 minutes ago, but you couldn't pay attention to me. You were too distracted, right? Very dismissive, as typical for Tarka. Booker then goes, load in torpedo tube 6, which tells us that the Nautilus or Booker ship has at least 6 torpedo tubes, which is a lot for a tiny little ship.
Yeah, it kind of is, but it's impressive too. I like that. Well, but you know what? This thought did just come to mind. Perhaps at this time, and we saw it in the 24th century, there were smaller ships that were able to launch torpedoes.
Sure.
So the
runabouts could with micro torpedo launchers.
His ship probably has smaller torpedo tubes, and the torpedoes still pack a hell of a punch. So yeah, I mean, you think 6 might be overdoing it, but they're small, so you have more of them. Sure, I think that's still a pretty impressive ability for a ship like that.
Yeah. And he was a courier for so long. I mean, if you're in a sticky situation and you need to get out of it, and phasers aren't enough, you got to have some juice there. So yeah, it makes sense for it there. Yeah.
I have no objections. I have no objections with them having a well-armed ship at all. It just seems like a lot.
It's impressive.
Yeah. Okay, so here we get this cool exterior shot of the Booker ship almost flying right into Cloak Discovery. They do a hard to pour, try and get away. And
you notice they lean to starboard?
Yeah, that's what you do. Counteract the turn.
You're not supposed to have to counteract the turn. You have artificial gravity.
Inertial dampeners aren't completely
inertial
dampeners aren't completely like 100% live, right? Like there's always a bit of a lag, so that's why you have to lean.
Come on, man, give this to me. Just give it to me.
Never.
They wanted to go to port. They leaned starboard like that was they messed up. Come on, man. Just all right, fine.
Nope. You get 0 points. All right, so here's where Burnham gets a really smart idea. She also decides to order a sensor blinding burst be fired out, which doesn't do damage. It's not like a tactical thing. It just lowers their ability to use their sensors, which buys them more time to catch them. Very smart idea. Something clearly that they'd planned ahead. That's not like typical ordnance we've ever seen a Starfleet ship use before. So it's good. Tarka back on Booker ship goes that they've lost 40% of their sensor capability, which is a lot for one burst. Booker then fires a magnesium charge into a hydrogen cloud that's going to ignite it, and it's going to cause a bright distraction. Burnham knows this trick, so they dive under it, and so forth and so on. It's like they know all of each other's moves. This whole they've been using that trick to evade Breen or pirates in Breen space is a neat detail. Tells us that the Breen still exist. It's really cool seeing how back and forth they know each other's punches so well.
I like the tit for tat warm up of countermeasures. Instead of flying in with phasers and torpedoes, I like seeing this. Launch the flares, do this. Okay, now ignite it was tactful. It was more of a kind of like Wrath of Khan, a submarine battle kind of thing where you have these distractions that you use to try to get away or to sneak up on someone. So, and that I liked. And you're right, they know each other's moves, which makes it even harder. There's a lot more skill.
Time. I mean, they're buying time at this point, so they're not going to go in straight up with phasers and torpedoes and this and that. They're going to try and distract each other for as long as they can, use all the moves that they possibly can, while Jet Reno figures out, what to do about, whether or not the DMA is going to jump, when the DMA is going to jump, all that stuff. So I think that part of it is just buying time, but another part of it is Michael and Book playing off of each other and trying to distract each other long enough for either of them to do the thing that they want. And it's a really, really interesting few scenes.
But yeah, so even at the end of this, right, Burnham says to go into like a dark matter cloud or something, and Booker goes, no, she didn't get hit by the blast, they dodged it, she's probably gone into that dark matter cloud right over there. And it's like, okay, it's almost like they're psychic with each other. So
they might be, well, because
he's an empath.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, he knows her really, really, really well. I mean, so I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's this neat line that Tarka goes about how like perhaps you know each other too well, and Booker snaps back at him, go work on this scanner, right? Like, yeah, I mean,
that's his ship.
Yeah,
that is his ship, and he gave Tarka that ship to do what Tarka wants to do. And so Book is pissed that he went over his head, and also very, very much like, hi, you're in my house now. And also just generally like probably concerned for Michael, concerned for people, and just trying to figure out how to achieve his goals without hurting anybody that he loves, and just go do that, please.
Suzanne, the way that you said that he knows her really, really, really well, I think puts to jeopardy our PG-13 rating.
That's not what I meant at all.
The way you said that last really, like, come on.
I mean, not what I meant.
Didn't we talk about trying to make this a children's show or children's podcast review? Never.
No, we never talk about that.
No.
So they do know each other biblically, but that's fine.
Biblically. Oh my God. Okay.
All right.
No bad.
OO detects some
Stop
particles.
Stop picking on me, Jay. Stop.
OO detects some particles from the galactic barrier, which is how they find the rift. Nilsson then makes this comment about how 10C doesn't seem to care that their device is churning space and taking out boronite before moving on. Burnham is then really resolute, like, we're gonna stop the DMA, but we're gonna do it the right way. Non then goes like, Booker is trying to do what he thinks is his right way, and then we'll be ready for him. Detmer is then ordered to take them in closer, and they put the Discovery between the approach where Booker's ship would come from and the controller itself, and they're going to hold the line. Now, as a reminder, and they did tell us this at the beginning of this sequence, their shields are compromised by this effect, right? Like, their shields are severely weakened. So this whole idea of like the little Book ship actually doing serious damage to the Discovery, I'm okay with it because they included that line. You dodge that line, you forget to include that, and suddenly I'm like, why is this little pissant ship trying to be a threat to Discovery? This is stupid. But they included it, so I'm happy with it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking, they have that line, but I was thinking more of at this point, they're still pulling their punches with each other.
Not that full brace of quantum torpedoes, though, that Booker's ship fires at one point.
Well, that wasn't at Booker's hand.
No, but it was from Booker's ship. My point is, I don't think Booker's ship should, if on an even playing field in open space without outside forces, I don't think Booker's ship should be able to be a threat to Discovery.
But he's got quantum torpedoes.
Okay.
Those things
So
are
does Discovery.
pretty dangerous.
It could be a minor threat to Discover. I mean, they still have torpedoes. I mean, I think that, or rather not he still has torpedoes, and again, being a courier and probably facing larger ships at some point, Book is not going to take chances back then with like, what is my weapons capacity? Like, can I take out this kind of ship? Can I take out this kind of ship? And so I don't think that necessarily it would be able to take out Discovery on a catastrophic level in normal circumstances, but it could definitely pack a punch.
Well, let's look at the tactics that Booker has used in every situation, right? It's distract and avoid, distract and evade, distract and escape, right?
Sure.
He's not there for stand-up fights. His ship isn't meant for it. It's a courier ship. That means it can stand up to some power, but it's not meant to duke it out with a starship, which is the scenario that I'm talking about.
Well, right, but I'm sure he's had scenarios where he's had to square up on someone, and that was me. But look at how his ship was used against Osira's big ass battle cruiser. I think had that fight been allowed to happen, would have taken quite a while, but they couldn't hit him. The Detmer was just outmaneuvering them, because if you think about it, remember the Mirror Universe episode of DS9 when they had they captured Cisco because they had to quickly get the Defiant finished, and the Defiant stayed so close to the Klingon warship that they really couldn't hit it as long as they stayed right up on it. Now the Defiant on its own would not have been able to defeat that Klingon warship, but when you have a smaller ship like that and you get in close where you can't be targeted, that's what's going to give you that chance. And I think that is what Book's ship is made for. It's get in close and tight where you can't get targeted and then just wreak havoc.
So just to put it out there, right? I completely agree with you that is valid, right? What they did against the Viridian and what Smiley did against Regency 1 both make perfect sense because of the kinds of weapons that those ships use, right? They both use disruptors. They both use cannon type weapons, right?
Yep.
Starfleet vessels don't. They use arrays. Arrays are much better at targeting things that are close by because they can fire in an arc all around them, right? There's no angle of invulnerability that you can approach a starship from, right? There might be some gaps, but both ships are moving, right? So I don't think it's quite so easy.
But the Discovery didn't have phaser arrays.
Now.
Well, I mean, I'm talking the strips, the phaser array strips, like that were prominent in the 24th century. It always seemed like they still had the cannon based firing and not the go around the circle. Okay,
we've seen the line move now.
I want to say one thing. If we're thinking about small ships and big ships, X-wing. I mean, think of all of the scenes of that ship maneuvering in and out of tight spaces to get those little pressure points that will eventually build. I mean, Book's ship can shift and change and move, and so I mean, I think that's one option. I mean, that's definitely one.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Right, small maneuverable ships can dodge.
Right, it'd be done.
Even so, small maneuverable ships can dodge and can get in close, right? Absolutely, right? But Starfleet ships use phaser arrays, and phaser arrays we've seen can shoot at shuttles and fighters that are really close nearby before. The way Voyager takes out like 11 Vadwar fighters like all at once is nuts. And the Enterprise D does it at one point too, with like a swarm of little ships that come up at it, right? It's like swatting them away like they're insects. So they're definitely able to target small, fast-moving ships, even when they're close. And I don't know. It's just, this is a scenario that's gotten a little too belabored, but I just think that the situation which they both found themselves in makes sense because neither one of them is fighting at their top.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
All right. So Burnham calls down to Stamets and demands like a timetable, and he's working on it with Zora. Just needs a little bit more time. Nan then goes, they can't keep playing this cat and mouse game because they need that data, and they need to figure this out now because new data hasn't swayed Booker in the past, right?
Right.
We see several of these really cool scenes where Book ship jumps out, and then Discovery jumps out. Then one ship jumps in, and the other jumps in right in front of it and absorbs some shots.
That was so
really
sweet.
Cool. Yeah, it reminded me a lot of that first season Discovery battle where Discovery is like hopping around the sarcophagus ship a lot, taking a couple pock shots. It's probably exhausting for poor Stamets, but it was really neat.
Well, those couple jumps are nothing. When he was trying to do the thing around that Klingon sarcophagus ship, good, because that was like 400 plus some jumps.
I tried to remember the number, but I couldn't remember it. I thought it was like 150 or something silly.
What am I saying? 400?
Yeah, it was like too.
Right.
He still had the stints at that point, and now he's just like, all right, some nice cool gel. Let's go. I feel like it's a very different
moisturizing.
It's moisturizing. Yeah, it's moisturizing. Ooh. Yeah, for sure.
So at this point, Nan is like, okay, we need to prepare our backup plan, and she like throws the plans over to Reese so that he can target and destroy Booker's ship. Nan says that she hopes to avoid having to do so, but like we need to be prepared. Burnham knows that he would need to decloak to get a target lock, so keep theirs active and stay in front of them as long as possible. But if you need to if Nan gives the order, follow the order, is what Burnham says essentially, which I think is smart. It's what makes sense. But last resort.
Yeah, I mean, you have to prepare for that. I mean, she's been given this huge responsibility, and knows it, and Michael knows it, everybody else knows it, and it's scary, it's frightening, it's going to scare everybody there. But you have to get ready for it. It's thing that if you decide later like, oh, we need to do this, and you're not ready, just because you didn't want to make people uncomfortable, like that doesn't happen. So yeah, it makes total sense that and I feel like in the beginning maybe Nam was a little trigger happy, not trigger happy, but you know what I mean, just sort of like I've been given the authority to relieve you of your command type of thing before Saru figures everything out and calms everybody down. But she has a job. She has a job to do. So it makes sense to prepare in that way.
Yep. And then they stop doing the cat and mouse jumping around back and forth, and then they're just like locked on each other. And Booker fires like a warning shot. It rustles some feathers on Discovery. Nan is like, they just attacked us. Let that be clear. And Burnham's like, no. He's just trying to wave us off. Fire back at him, and then we see like the same the shuddering that's going on, the shaking on Booker's ship. And Tarka's like, they're trying to destroy us, and he's like, no, she's just trying to scare us off. So they continue to be back and forthing with this same, like, they know each other's moves, they know what they're trying to do, but neither one of them is going to call the other's bluff. They're just going to keep going on this. It's bad. It's very much a collision course. At one point, Tarka gets very frustrated and just slams his fist down on the control console, on the weapons console particularly, and fires like a full spread of quantum torpedoes, which does some actual damage.
Oh yeah, them bastards hurt.
Yeah.
So if we're to trust that the different colors of a torpedo are supposed to tell us on screen what it is, we saw it in Nemesis. We definitely saw that the Enterprise E had both. Of course, the quantum torpedoes were the white. The regular photon torpedoes were more of like an orangish color, like they always have been. So if we're to say that they know that that's what they're doing in the editing or CGI of the show, that Book's ship has all these quantum torpedoes and Discovery does not? Or is it maybe it was just that they didn't fire those because they were just doing the warning shot? But so far,
I'm more inclined to believe that.
Yeah, same.
That they have both types, but of course you don't use a quantum torpedo as a warning shot.
And Tarka just gets pissed and doesn't think and just
goes hard in the paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'd actually say it's even more than that, right? Like, we know that the yields of torpedoes can be modified. We know that they perform surgery on them in Voyager to change the yield. They do it for the Tri-Cobalt device too. So I would wager that Discovery isn't even firing torpedoes at full yields. They're probably at like kid size yields. I don't know. Not quite deadly.
Happy Meal torpedoes.
Yeah, perfect. Happy Meal torpedoes. But the one that destroy his ship, that one's at full power.
little toy plastic photon torpedo. Sorry.
Yeah.
It just goes dink. Like the shuttle
Happy
lower
Meal.
decks. I'm
Happy
sorry.
Meal
I'm
torpedoes.
But yeah, I would assume that this is just sort of Tarka being overly frustrated, arrogant, pissed, wanting to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and just not caring. And and I think that eventually shows us how little he gives a shit about human life other than his and his lovers. And I think that's a big, not necessarily a turning point because we know he's a dick, but like I think it's telling that's his his option is just slam it, just fire everything, and I think that's a big, not a turning point, but definitely shows us more of like he does not care who he hurts.
At that point, he was going for the kill shot. He didn't think that Discovery would be able to take a full spread of quantum torpedoes to the face like that.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if he was trying to kill them or if he was just trying to like buy himself enough time or window so that he could fire at the DMA.
He fired like 6 quantum torpedoes at the thing.
Yeah, and their shields are down too. So like to me,
that's not somebody
that would do a lot of.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm just saying I don't know if he actually thought it would blow up Discovery. Discovery's a tough ship.
I think he knew it would hurt them badly, and he wanted to buy time to, but he also, again, he didn't know how badly it would hurt them, and so I think he probably doesn't care if it took out 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 red shirts. He doesn't care. He just wants to blow this thing up and get the power source and leave. So
that'd be like if I shot you in the face with a shotgun and then said, "Well, I'm not trying to kill her. I hope she'll be okay." It's like,
thanks.
Okay, Dick Cheney. All right, Dick Cheney.
Oh, yeah, it's getting deep now.
Yeah, so politics.
Right, no one needs to get shot in the ass.
Not today. But yeah, so Non then starts going like, it's time to give the order. It's time to blow him up. He just fired a full brace of torpedoes at us. This is serious. It's time. And then Burnham like turns to Saru, and Saru's like, I think she's right. Yeah, it's about the time. And then it looks like Burnham's turning to Reese to give him the order, and that's when Stamets chimes in with like, hey, I found it. We got 154 hours, roughly a week. Thank you. Cool. So that's that was the last second interrupt that saves Booker and Tarka's lives. They hail Booker's ship. No response. Telling them to keep trying. No response. Burnham then goes to Reese. If Non orders to destroy it. Then she leaves the room and goes to the shuttle bay where she's going to hop into the shuttle and go tell him about the Boronite and the time from like through the windshield so that they can see each other, like make a real connection kind of moment. Okay. I hate it, but it's something that's totally in Burnham's character, but I still hate it.
Oh, why do you hate it?
It's so dumb, right? Like going into a shuttle in like an active conflict, going right up to them in a place where you're expecting big explosions and the DMA is around and it has gravity anomalies and all these other things. It just is so much. It's so extra.
In a way that is maybe not smart, but I think that we've already established that she's compromised, and she's given Non the option, or not given her the option, but she orders it, do it.
Yeah,
but she wants to try and save the man she loves, and it's in character for her. But yeah, it feels a little dumb.
I kind of took it more as this is the only way you'll actually be able to communicate, because obviously not answering any hails, just ignoring you. So you go show up in person.
What's next? Smoke
Face
signals?
to face. What's that?
What's next? Smoke signals?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I get it. It makes sense in the plot. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying it's dumb.
It was a bit much.
Yeah, it's just extra, right? Like
it's romantic.
Right.
They could have ended this scene or this episode with essentially, we've got this information, hail them. He's answered. Tell him the thing. Tarka doesn't care. Tarka fires. They didn't need to add this extra shuttle-like thing. It just seems
yes, they
much.
did. But I don't know. It's sweet. I mean,
You're killing
it's
the
not-
romance, Renzo.
But I mean, after all this tit for tat and cat and mouse game, we've been building up to this whole Michael and Book thing, and it's one way to do it, and I'm not mad. I'm just it's a little silly, but it's okay. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Well, someone just please send him like some Valentine's Day chocolates or something. I'm sure they're still out. They're probably on sale. We can chip some of that coal off your.
I will never turn down chocolate. Don't you worry. But I had cookies and I had things on Valentine's Day. I had a great one. There was a date. It was a lot of fun. But I will never turn down chocolate.
Right.
But yeah, so back to the episode rather than my love life. Burnham's shuttle.
Michael's love life. Back to Michael and Book's love life.
Back to the Michael Booker show. Okay. So they take the shuttle over. Tarka is like seemingly kind of frantic. Like he looks like he's kind of losing it. He's kind of having a bit of a yelling thing with Booker going on.
Wow.
And no, not at all. And then Burnham gets real up close to them and like hails over, and she comments on like, "Why aren't you answering my phone calls? Been a little busy."
Would you warn me before saying something like that when I'm about to take a drink? I almost lost it.
Like, hey babe.
Why haven't you answered my texts?
Right. Why
aren't you
ghosting
answering
me?
my text?
You don't ghost me.
Red,
I'll cut you.
2:18 p.m.
See, this is what happens when we record our
Receipts.
podcast late. We just get loopy.
It's fine.
No, we better pick up the pace, or we're gonna get like we're gonna hit that loopy threshold.
That could have been a really good. That could have been a really good spit take.
Oh my god, it almost happened. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
We're almost done. Anyways, she transmits the data on the timetable, noting the DMA would continue collecting the boronite in this uninhabited area of space for another week. There's no lives in danger. This gives Starfleet time to go try its first contact. And she offers an offer from President Rillick and Admiral Vance that they can come aboard Discovery and remain there for the week. And if we can't make first contact in the week, then we can do your plan, right? Like that is a very good offer and compromise. But Tarka thinks it's a lie. Tarka can't wait that long. Booker retorts that you lost your voting rights when you fired the quantum torpedoes.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Good fucking point.
Mm-hmm.
Booker looks like he's ready to accept it. He brings down the privacy screen after talking to Tarka and agrees. Burnham then calls Discovery, relays the good news. As Burnham is arriving back on Discovery, Tarka gives this little rant about expected utility, which is a game theory thing, which I actually remember studying in college. But like, I think he kind of misapplies it, because expected utility is the potential of something to be useful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could argue that a spork has more potential value than a spoon, right? Because it has the potential use of also being a fork, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that if you have a spoon, you can't also use it in lieu of a fork.
True.
Yeah,
It's just not ideal.
Uh-huh.
His situation here is a little bit of a misconstruction of it, but it doesn't matter. I get his point, and it makes sense, right? If you start overthinking things or overanalyzing the potential value of something, you can lose value. So pushes a button, and he fires his isolytic weapon at the DMA controller.
Beams it on it, or beams.
Oh,
it
that's
near it.
right. You're right. He transports it to it.
Yeah.
Phew. Yeah, knew he was going to do that. I knew that was going to happen this whole season.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's so arrogant and he's such a dick,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that he's not. Even if they come into a compromise, Tarka's not going to go, okay, fine. Like, no, that's not who he is. He has one goal. He's had one goal for 10 years. It makes. I mean, I had no misconceptions about that.
No, neither did I. But they made a really interesting foreshadowing for this moment too earlier in the episode, where Tarka suggests that they beam the weapon closer to the controller, and Booker's like, "No, we can't drop our shields. They'll beam us right off the ship if we do."
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's
So-
I missed that.
But right now everyone's like calmed down. Everyone's all cooled and distracted, and that's gives him the opening to be able to do this. Now, when you guys, if you can help me describe this or explain this, I think I've got it right. the weapon. What the weapon is supposed to do is encase the power source in some kind of like 0-point energy, encase that, but then have an explosion that goes outward that disrupts the DMA. Am I picturing that correct? Because he definitely needs a power source. This thing was not going to destroy the power source. So is that what it was? It would somehow encase it and then, okay.
He called it a null space bubble.
Null space bubble. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I 0-point energy. That was for the quantum torpedoes. I was stuck on that. So a null space. Okay. And then, well, when we get to it, because I don't want to cut off your timeline there, but there's another part of this whole thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around.
These are the things that in Star Trek that I watch, and I don't understand anything about space, so I'm going to smile and nod and agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's supposed to like bubble it somehow and protect it, disrupt it, destroy it, but still keep that source safe.
But it didn't look like it did anything.
Yeah, it did.
Well,
it did.
Right, I know, but it still, like, the DMA still looked like it was still all.
It's weird. Yeah,
I just answered which is what I was going to ask about. So I'll wait. Renzo, you go ahead. You know where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, I do. Here's how I would describe it. Right, a star, the sun, right?
Yep.
Works off of two basic principles: gravity and pressure. Right.
Yep.
Gravity, because of its mass, is collapsing it and pulling it closer together, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pressure from fusion, the energy being generated by fusion, is pushing it out, right? So it's a balance of the two forces.
Yes.
Explosion and gravity pushing the two together, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to, just hypothetically, take the center of the sun, a very large chunk of it, and just like cancel out its gravity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means then that there's less pressure or force pushing it in or pulling it in, and then the power that goes out would be more substantial and it would explode, right?
Yes.
Think of that the same way here. The DMA controller is establishing the DMA around it. This thing establishes the null space bubble, which is nonsense. It's not a real thing, but a null space bubble around the controller using the isolytic weapon. And then without that gravity there, or whatever technology is there, the energy that's around it is released and uncontrolled. So it just kind of like explodes for a parsec.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Oh, no, that makes perfect sense. I totally got that part. It just, to me, it looked like even when they did all that, and the explosion and everything, it all kind of came back in. It came back and coalesced back in, that it looked like what it did before the explosion. And that's the part I didn't get, especially after they explained the thing with the...
Oh, I think I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean now. I'll get to that in a second, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. Remember, there's a wormhole at the center of the DMA, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
The wormhole leads extragalactic to wherever 10C is, right? So here's the misunderstanding. Tarka thought that the DMA controller was on this side of the wormhole.
Reasonable, yeah.
Right, because the effect is on this side. Apparently not.
That's the part it's a great... Of course, that's what's going to happen in the plot. I'm having a hard time picturing it, explaining it. I know we're trying to take science fiction and wrap our heads around why, especially in the future and with a species we probably have never met that's outside the galaxy. But I'm just...
It's not here.
Okay, so the power source is there. We see it. They could touch it if they wanted to, I guess, supposedly.
We don't know that.
But
we don't know that.
Is it like there conceptually, and it's actually on the other end? Like, how is it on the other end, but you see it on?
Well, that's how. So a wormhole, right?
Yeah.
If these races are as advanced as they appear to be, something may be on the other side, but its effects may be on this side, right? Like shining a light through a keyhole, right?
Yeah.
The source of the light is on one side, but the light that's coming out of the hole is on the other side. Same idea.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
I'm just theorizing because we don't get an explanation for these things. We may not get an explanation at all.
Yeah. This is one of those things in science fiction where like I sometimes try and do the sciencey thing and try and figure it out. And then my brain just goes, you know what? I don't care. And it's like, they'll explain it later. I don't understand, but I will pretend that I do, and I will smile and nod. However, I think that it does make sense that it would be that the power source would be like on the other side, but still projecting this DMA onto the other side of that wormhole and being able to grab things on the other side of that wormhole and bring them back to the power source to the other side of the wormhole. It's just it's a projection. It's not a projection in the sense of like a hologram, but it's a projection in the sense of like it's going through this wormhole, it's going out. The power source is safe, but still running the damn thing, and it's still able to get the stuff that we need and bring it back. And then when it needs to jump, it just goes and then somewhere else.
I understand that, but why was it discovered that the power source was at the other end of the wormhole? Why do we see the power source right here?
Because it's like shining through the keyhole, if that makes sense. So you can see it. It's a projection of it. You can see the center of it because it's shining through that little wormhole. Like if you imagine it as a keyhole, like you can see that power source there. It's just on the other side of it. And so once you explode the thing, and you can't get back into the.
How does a reflection power the DMA?
Don't think Deep Space Nine's wormhole.
Right.
Don't think that way. Think it's just a very short, very narrow like tunnel, right?
Right.
You can't tell because of astrophysics how thick it is, right? Or where one side is and where the other side starts. But what's on one side by design looks like it's on this side as a reflection, like a mirror, right?
Okay.
They couldn't tell that it was on the other side. They don't have the technology to tell that it was on the other side.
But that
so
power
they
was still going through.
Right.
Exactly.
I think, I'm stuck on trying to reconcile how this works with the thought and function in my head of the Bajoran wormhole.
Yeah, so the Bajoran wormhole special. We know that much.
Yes.
We've never seen another wormhole that had like the whole blue swirly interface as you travel for like a few minutes until you get to the other side. Right. Remember in the Voyager episode Message? No, not Message in a Bottle. It's the one that had the Romulan ship on the other side.
I thought that was Message in a Bottle.
No, that wasn't Message in the Bottle.
That's the Prometheus one.
Right, with the doctors.
That's right. Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
So the micro wormhole, right? Remember how they were like mapping it?
Yep.
Right? That's a decayed and old wormhole. Maybe this one is different. So it's like super narrow on the two sides. The space is just really wide. It's just designed that way. These guys are super advanced. So that's something that sits right on one edge of it, still affects the other side.
They also have technology that they do not understand. So these people could have come up with some crazy, weird way to just manufacture a wormhole out of nothing and be like, cool, we need this thing. We're going to like use the power source, project the DMA out. So it is a physical thing. It's not just a reflection, but it is a physical thing. It's just got the power source in a safe place on the other end of that wormhole that's kind of shining through like a light in a keyhole. And then they grab the shit and bring it back.
Eye of the Needle. Also, that was the name of it.
Right. It was Eye of the Needle. Yeah. And I think this is going to be another case like it was last season where we spend the entire time theorizing up to the point of how did this cause the burn? How's the burn caused? When we started getting some hints, well, how did that do it? We didn't know. We couldn't come up with it until the writers decided to tell us.
Yeah.
So this is probably going to be one of those cases where you're not going to know how this thing works until we get to that episode and that point where we tell you how it does.
That's fair.
And it would be like, last season, remember me saying their explanation for the burn was great. It was perfect. It was very good. I don't know what I expected the thing to be, but not that. I don't know what I wanted to be happy with it, but the way they explained it was great.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about Discovery is that again, that sense of wonder, that idea that like we really don't know what's going to happen from one thing to the next. It's brilliant to me. I mean, it's really honestly one of my favorite shows because I never know. I can theorize all I want. But I'm never going to truly honestly, like I might get a few elements right, but I'm never going to truly honestly know what's going on all the time. And that's what a good sci-fi show should do, in my opinion.
Because I was not expecting them to figure out oh, the power source must be on the other side of the wormhole. I'm like, the fuck? How is it over? Okay, I need to figure this out. And
it's really awesome.
I can't. Yeah.
Either way, the scene ends with, the thing starting to collapse. Everybody starts freaking out. Tarka starts telling him, okay, jump us out. All right, pull us out. And Book's like, I'm not leaving until they leave. We'll be destroyed. I don't care. And they wait until Discovery jumps out. Then they jump out as well. And we see this phenomenal explosion that goes on that has every color of the rainbow as it explodes out. Really cool. Cool effect. And they jump away. Tarka starts scanning for the DMA power core, and it's not there. And as we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, it's not there because it's on the other side of the micro or the wormhole that links this and the other galaxy, or the space outside of the galaxy. Mm-hmm. So he is very pissed and sad looking, and I found it delicious.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very sort of didn't go as you planned. Good, suffer. I also think it's cool that like all of the rainbow explosion, the big huge bang, I mean, it is a mining thing. Mm-hmm. So you have to think there's lots of elements and lots of things within that DMA that would have also just sort of erupted in color. I thought that was neat. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know science, but I thought
it looked awesome. I'm just happy that they didn't accidentally make like Omega or something by blowing this thing up, which was one of my fears.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my God.
The thing mines boronite. If it's collecting a lot of it and you somehow put it under a lot of pressure from a subspace explosion or implosion, maybe you make some Omega, and that would be bad.
Yeah, the rest of the episode ending with the Omega symbol on the screen.
Oh God, I would have passed out.
I would have been so pissed.
Yeah, same. I can't handle that. I'm so glad that did not happen.
I would have drowned myself in the sink if that
not
would
the
happen.
Sink.
You're too big for the sink. Don't bother.
Jay.
On my head.
You're like, I would
put my whole body on
a big head.
Man. He got me good that time.
I love that your reaction were like, oh no, that would have been so awful. I'm going to kill myself if that happens. Like, Jesus. Okay.
No, I'm upset that Renzo said I have a big head.
You do have a big head.
Yeah. He doesn't have a big head. He just has a bald head, which my hairline's also receding.
Mine too. Don't you worry.
You guys still have a hairline.
That's true. That's a good point.
I thought we weren't going to do bald jokes anymore. Or was I dreaming?
I'm sorry. I don't.
You never read of that? None of you?
No, I said I haven't done any.
This is bad.
It's not a joke if it's true.
It's not a joke if it's true.
Damn, guys.
Love you, Jay.
What? Yeah, I mean, when did it turn into pick on Big J night? We need to wrap this up.
I love you, Big J. I love you.
You have free reign to pick on Suzanne Day one of these days.
All right.
Free reign.
So wrapping this up, back on Discovery, they're back at Federation HQ. Burnham visited by Nan, and they have this whole conversation about how like they have no idea how 10C is going to respond. Admiral Vance is initiating emergency protocols. Like every ship is scrambling again. They're starting to try and figure out how to communicate through the galactic barrier still, but like they don't know what they're going to do. And then Nan goes, I've said my goodbyes to the crew. You're the last one. And, Burnham tells her that you have a home here if you want to stay, right? Like you're always welcome here. Doesn't matter. Like if you ever need it, you're always welcome here, which is a very nice little scene. It's very touching, especially considering the talk that they had earlier in the episode about like, or that they have to talk about how many people died from her covert ops team and how many lives did they save. Like it shows that they still bonded, like they still have a friendship, even if they disagreed heatedly at parts of this episode. It's good. So Nan definitely took that to heart too, about how like she can't be all or nothing. She needs to be okay with finding a middle ground, which is good. Everybody needs to understand that sometimes black and white isn't all there is.
Yeah,
absolutely. I loved getting to see Nan and Michael interact in this episode. I loved getting to see that. I've loved a lot of the stuff they've done recently with more minor characters, just learning more about them, seeing more of them. I think that's something that a lot of people have wanted for a long time. I think it's really great that we have the time to do that now, and they can write that in. And I think it was really, really great to see the differences between Michael and Nan, but that they do go so far back, and that they're able to play off each other and reach a middle ground and talk about everything. And I think it was great.
Yep, it was. Would you give Tuvix some attention?
Oh,
he just wants
Tuvix.
to be petted.
Poor baby.
Anyways,
he's a good boy.
Yeah, he's actually been great today. So our last scene is, one of our last scenes now is Culber alone, and then Saru enters in sickbay, and they have this conversation about like Tarina and whether he can respond to it. And he's starting to freak out a little bit again, very teenager like. Saru is just kind of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop this. I don't know if these feelings are okay. And then Culber looks amused, straight up like he's gonna laugh. Like, but tell me,
I love him.
Do you feel like you like her back? And Saru's like, you think I might? And it's just so pathetic. The whole thing,
it's very Brad Boimler of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very Boimler of him. And I love that. I mean, I don't know.
It's pitiful.
It's sweet. But it's so pitiful.
It's just like he walked in. Should I send her a note in study hall or something?
Exactly.
I got asked out. What do I do?
Singing Valentine's. Lord.
Yeah, but I think it's sweet. It is. It's
sweet.
These two innocent people. Yeah,
I loved Culber's performance in this scene. Right, like it shows that he sussed out exactly what was going on immediately and was like, oh, he's being bashful. Let me encourage him. And then he gives his professional opinion that Saru is like being an idiot.
Yep.
A connection is always a risk, especially with everything that's going on. But go for it, man. And Saru thanks the doctor for his unexpected candor, which I don't think should be unexpected. Culber is usually very honest and forthright. So overall, great little scene.
It was very sweet. Saru, he's just sweet. He's doing his best, and I think it's sweet. And I think it's also great that Culber's like, go get it. Go get her. It's fine. Just, it's a risk, but like,
go get you some.
Just go get some. Go. You gave her tea? Really? Go. Just go.
She gave you rice? You idiot. What are you doing in here?
Exactly. It's just it's so sweet. And I want them to do well, but I know we're going to get more awkward scenes, but I like it. I like that even at their age and even with all of the life experience that they have, this is not something that they've explored because they really haven't had the luxury of exploring it. They really haven't had the time to do that. They haven't had the connection with anybody before. They haven't had because he's had to work so hard to get where he is in Starfleet at all. And then with everything going on with Discovery and jumping, 900 years into the future. And then for her, she's the president of Navarre, which is still very, new to the Federation and new in general in terms of how much time that they've traveled across. And so they're older, but they're still learning.
I will say,
I don't know if new to the Federation is really quite apt. They've been out of it for 150 years, but like we said, with Vulcans, that can
that's true.
Kind of be a little bit. Yeah. And she probably, because I think she did, or am I making things up, that she was alive during the Federation days, then getting out of it after the burn, and then now back in. Right. Okay.
So it's tentative, more not necessarily new to the Federation, but new to this era of the Federation. And also, we don't know how long she's been president. So we don't know if she was president when they were in the Federation. We don't know.
Probably
all that
not.
Stuff. So she's still.
I'm sure they have term limits.
Yeah,
one would hope.
Probably. I would hope. But I mean, who knows? They're logical. So maybe anyway. But I like that even at their age, they haven't really had the time to learn about this, and they get to explore that with each other. I think it's sweet, but it's awkward as hell.
Yeah. So I'll say this much. I don't mind awkward scenes. They're just awkward, right? Like it's fine. Watching Scott Pilgrim, I love the movie, but it's full of awkward scenes, right? But as soon as it gets to the point where it's so awkward, I'm like cringing, right? There are so many scenes in Schitt's Creek, and I really liked that show where I'm just like, I can't watch this scene, mute, fast forward. Okay, scene's done. I can keep going now, right? It's just too much cringe. I'm embarrassed for the characters, right?
Yeah, the secondhand embarrassment is real. I got that a little bit in the last episode with Michael's performance at the poker table, just slightly, like occasionally with her little
It was a moment. I agree.
Like,
it was
wow,
overacted.
You know?
Well, but they were hustling.
But that was on purpose.
Yeah, it was a hustle.
I mean, it was absolutely on purpose, and she did such a great job. I'm not trying to critique her at all. I just it's one of those things where I was like, oh, it's so obvious, and it's one of those.
Saru is really approaching my limit there, where I'm like,
a little bit,
bro, come on.
You need to get, now it's time to get the liquid courage. We've had enough
Ask
of
her out, fool.
Yeah, right. Ask her out, for God's sakes. And you're right.
We're gonna get a scene like out of not Breakfast at Tiffany's, the one with the guy with the boombox outside of the high school, where he's like,
John Cusack, and that was
I'll look it up.
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
Oh my God,
that's going to drive y'all crazy. If
it will drive me crazy if we don't have that one.
Boombox.
But I will take.
Say anything.
Oh, God,
1989.
Say anything. I will take how they're doing this romance over how we used to get it in the 90s with TNG, DS9, and Voyager, where once you got to the last season or the season finale, suddenly people are hooking up. And because it's like, okay, well, we're at the end of the series, so we can do whatever the hell we want, and let's just start pairing people off.
Look at Tom and B'Elanna, right? Tom and B'Elanna's thing built up over years. It was slow and romantic. It was nice. Yep. Worf and Jadzia built up over the course of years, and that was nice and slow, right? Like, and even Worf was real awkward sometimes. Like, Worf had whole scenes where he's like, I don't know how to tell her, right? Like, it's, bro, sack up. Like, you're the big macho guy. Like, you can do this. I get it. But it's just interesting seeing it now, especially with characters that are far more mature than Worf or, Tom Paris of all people. So,
but I think for every Tom and B'Elanna and every Worf and Dax that you get, you also get a Chakotay and 7 of 9.
I was about to say,
no, I agree.
I could see it on your face.
I agree.
Be worse.
That was like, what?
I hate it.
It's
me too, Tuvix.
He's chiming in like, I didn't.
He's like,
let's not forget. There was also Tom and Janeway, and they even had kids.
Oh, come on.
God.
Why did you have to? Could you have just?
The pillow talk. It's so. I love that Janeway just goes, who knows if you initiated it or not?
No, I'm turning the computer off.
Catherine.
I'm gonna peace out of here.
All right, so we've got one last little bit of story. One last bit of story, and then
there's
we're
still
done.
Oh my God.
It's like a sentence. So the new DMA has appeared, right? Like another ship was monitoring where the DMA had been, and now there's a new one. The USS Mitchell has spotted it, and sounds like they've made first contact. They tried to turn off the DMA. They put a whole lot of effort into destroying it. It lasted like an hour. Shit.
If you're 10C, what are you thinking yourself at that point where someone jacked up your miner? Like, what the hell is this? I just put out another one. I
would honestly be like, did somebody kick the power cable? Put another one. Who cares?
Guys.
Yeah. Like a cat shoots the wires. Like, God damn it.
Cal
Moraine, just like shoot on the wires. Just put out a new one.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I mean, they straight up just like, oh, damn, sucks.
Boink.
Boink. There's another one. Yeah. It doesn't feel aggressive though. I feel like that's the thing that I wanted to note is that like, if they were genuinely concerned about the ability of the Federation to attack them or hurt them or in some way, I almost feel like them just putting out another DMA is like, and then it's like they were like, damn, it's all like an inconvenience to them more than to them. It was like an attack.
Right. Yeah. To them, it was just like, they broke a drill bit. All right. Well, it happens. Just, it's Tuesday. Just put out another one.
Tuesday in Spaceland, I feel sorry, I'm tired. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like if they were angry, they would have sent out a bunch of shit. Like, it would have been like in fluidic space when the species 1-2, whatever the fuck, I can't remember their numbers.
8472.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Comes through with all their ships, and if they're actually nervous, they're gonna come out of a little corridor in space and say, "Hey," and probably shoot them a bunch. But I mean, to me, it feels like more of an inconvenience to them, just like somebody cut the power.
And I think that the fact that they just kind of treated this like, they broke a drill bit, just replace it and move on is kind of even scarier, because then that tells you that something like this to them is, hey, we stripped a screw, we gotta get another one, and then they keep on going. I mean, if they can just pop these out like that, oh my God.
For all we know, 10C is doing this across a dozen galaxies at once, or 30 or 100 of them, collecting boronite in places that they think are uninhabited. They don't even think about it. And then, miner 4221 just turned off. Worth looking into it? Nah, just turn a new one on. Move on with the day.
It's a similar theme. It's a similar theme also in Picard, of this sort of world-ending, other galactic thing that's going to kill you all. I mean, with that one, it was more obviously aggressive and more hostile, and it was sort of this synthetic thing. And this one doesn't seem to be synthetic for all we know, but it's that same sort of world-ending theme of like, this is something we know nothing about. That all of our technology, I mean, thousands of years of technology cannot keep up with this weird blobby thing in the middle of wherever the hell that is. And they keep putting out shit that can destroy planets in seconds. And they just treated it like a Tuesday. That's scary. That to me is more scary than a full scale attack.
Yeah.
In some ways.
It's scarier than retaliation.
Yeah. Because at that point, if first contact happens, they might just say, well, we need this shit, so
we didn't know you were there.
We're going to destroy you. My bad, but like, you're not important to us. And that could happen. I mean, first contact could be like, oh, you exist? Not anymore. And so that's frightening. That's scary.
We're the ants, and they're the boot.
Exactly. Yeah.
An ant has no quarrel with a boot.
So, any last thoughts on this episode before we wrap?
No, I got all mine out.
I hate Tarka so much, and it was so nice to see him get sad, suffer. I don't like you. I've never liked that guy. Also, I love Tarina. I don't know why. I just think she's neat. I think she's a really, really cool character. They're awkward, and Saru is the more awkward of the two, but I think that she's just, I don't know, she's cool. She seems to want to help, She seems to just be quite a lovely person. I don't know. Yeah. I think she's cool. I think she's neat.
No, overall, I like the episode. I think that the interactions are very realistic. The effects that they did for this episode were some of the best they've done in the show. They looked fantastic. Great. In particular, the shuttle being torn in half by the programmable matter bubble or whatever looked awesome. Overall, really cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see where they go now that we're going to try actually talking to 10C rather than blowing up their toys.
We're sorry about your toys.
Yeah, sorry about that. Oops.
Yep. Well, great. If you guys have nothing else, we have broached we're getting loopy time of the recording. Yeah. So for God's sakes, to our listeners and viewers, thank you for lasting this long. If you have the late night recordings, I think are the most interesting because that happens. Even though I love the look on Renzo's face, he always looks like he's going to slap the shit out of someone if we don't get back on track.
Listen, that's what you told me I need to do.
You do. Yes, you do.
Yeah. That's on me because it's like, let's keep it under 2 hours. And I'm over here like, right.
Hate our takes or think that we're wrong. Let us know. Like, tell me where my explanation on like how this thing functions is wrong. Tell me. I would love to hear the response. Happy to engage. Just, hit us up on our socials and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See ya. Live long and prosper.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our Patreon and Anchor supporters. Big thanks to Stephanie Baker, S. Tam, Anne Marie, Jim Cook, and Nora Hickson. We really appreciate your support. Thanks for being a part of Beyond Trek Podcast.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.